Hey guys, this is Malobi and you are listening to the Pan-African Traders Podcast. On this podcast, we're going to be speaking with experts in trade across the value chain, on the continent and also across the diaspora. This podcast is also sponsored by Kadan Kadan. Kadan Kadan is a new groupage app that allows you to share space within a shipping container so that you can save costs when it comes to your logistics and transportation. Visit kadankadan.com to learn more or visit the Instagram page Kadan Kadan Official. So, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Malobi from the Pan-African Traders Podcast. And today we have a very special guest. Tokunbo is going to speak to us a little bit about exports, talk about what she does when it comes to consulting in Nigeria for exports. So this is going to be a really, really great conversation because this is someone that's actually speaking to exporters, that's deep in the value chain, and has been doing it for quite a while now. So welcome to the podcast, Tokunbo. Nice to have you here. So first of all, I think it'll be good to just maybe introduce yourself. Can you tell us, what your name is and what you do? What's the name of your company? And then we can start getting into it.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Tokunbo. I work as an export consultant. The name of my company is Fortress 20 Commodities. So I started out in the export space 2007. So that's almost 15 years ago. It was a vacation job and then it became a regular job. And 2018, I left that job to start an export consulting company, right? So my first degree is actually in accounting, but I also took a professional course, certified international trade finance with the London Institute of Banking and Finance. I was also in the agribusiness program of the Lagos Business School. I'm adjunct faculty in the Lagos Business School, faculty agro chains. I was expert mentor on the Future Females program. And I also facilitated a course on the Nigerian Export Academy. I have two mini books on exports, export lingo, and export contracts. So basically, I think that's a summary of my profile, basically.
Wow, that's a very, very impressive profile. There's a lot to unpack there, but before we even get into the real deep conversation, the name Fortress 20 Commodities, how did you come up with that name? It's I'm trying to figure out what it means.
Okay, so because export is quite at its infancy, underdeveloped, unstructured in Nigeria, means then that a lot of people lose a lot of money in exports because there's a dearth of information. Like you all know, a fortress is like a place of safety, right? So there isn't so much safety in the place, in the space. So we have decided that we're going to be a safe space. So capital safety is critical for us. It's not just about doing the business, it's about doing it profitably and safely. So that's the fortress part of it. The 20 part of it is another discussion, a very long discussion. But the fortress part of it is the safety part that, yes, you can do exports and you can do it in a safe manner without losing your capital.
Wow, that's fantastic because people do lose money exporting, and they have all the best intentions. They want to get into exporting to either make more money or create employment and everything, but people are not equipped with the right information. Definitely. So that's really good that you're providing that safety. So that's an interesting brand proposition there. So you mentioned that you started off in a vacation job and then you created your own consulting business. What was that like for you stepping out of a 9-to-5 job, taking a risk and deciding, okay, I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to become an entrepreneur? What was that transition like?
Well, the transition, interestingly, the transition was like a project. It was the whole idea of consulting was a project when I was in LBS. For my action learning project. So the whole consulting idea was just the project, and it wasn't something that was going to be actioned on. It was just a project. And 2 years after, the project was 2016, 2018, I had to do like a forced eject from the current job I was doing then. And then I thought, why not consulting? There's a dearth of information in exports anyway. The exporters are too busy exporting. Exporting is like 10 jobs in one. So the exporters are too busy exporting. They cannot offer consulting. Otherwise, their own jobs will suffer. And then those who are foraying into exports, the beginners, don't have anyone to hold their hands. So I thought, okay, why not hold people's hands and also make a profession out of it? Of course, at this time, it wasn't very popular. Even now, it's still not very popular for you to be an export consultant. What most people know is that you're either exporting or you're not, but there isn't anyone to really say this is how to go. This is a compass. Let's navigate this way. So it wasn't anything popular. It was uncharted territory, and export is very wide, right? There's the oil exports, there's the non-oil exports, and the information for the various value chain is different across board. So it wasn't an easy ride. It was bumpy, right? But after some time, we're able to stabilize and then begin to speak to what the needs of the people are. We eventually settled on export readiness because we had there are three things that we basically do: training, consulting, and trading, and then on the training, we eventually settled with export readiness, because we have discovered that most people are not even ready to export. And for it to be sustainable, you have to tick some boxes before you even start. What you find out is some people have not ticked any boxes, and they are already in the international market. And what typically happens is that they have one-off transactions. After one transaction is the end of the transaction. So eventually settled with export readiness and said, okay, prepare people for exports. Let them tick all the boxes before they go into the market. And that has attracted a considerable buy-in and considerable success along the way.
Well, that's amazing, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot more people interested. From speaking to people over the past year or so, I've heard a lot of people, not even just in Nigeria, people in the diaspora that are looking to, import goods from Nigeria, and they are looking to learn. They're asking questions. They want to see how they can export. So this is a really important gap in the market that you're filling. So I guess, you mentioned some of the key services you offer: the training, the consulting, the trading. But I'm keen to understand what are some of the most common mistakes that you found that people make, either just before they start exporting or when they make their first, export. What are the, recurring themes that you tend to see?
I think one of the most interesting ones is the calculation part of it, where people are just eager, once they see the contracts and they see the USD, the number of zeros behind the USD, people just go very, they are excited, and so they don't do any calculations. They don't put figures on paper. They don't look at the profitability of the whole thing. So someone is in the UK and the person goes to a shop and discovers that maybe someone is selling a tuber of yam at maybe £5 or something, and the person is like, what, £5? I'm going to Nigeria, I'm bringing in all the yam I can possibly get, I'm putting it in all the stores. And he's not even thinking about his cost of logistics. He's not thinking about the cost of the yam itself. He's not thinking about the kind of yam it is. The person is just excited by the foreign exchange that stands to be earned. So I've seen a lot of people make mistakes from excitement. Another thing is country-specific products. So the EU has banned beans, for example, and some people will still take in beans and discover on the other end that it was banned. And then you're wondering, how could this even happen? How can you take out stuff and discover on the other end? Another thing I've seen our people do a lot is to gamble. A country says we don't want this product, or this product is not allowed. And what you have seen people do is they take in the products. They'll say some people still bring in the products, and then there's a lot of destruction at destination. The countries would invite you over to come and supervise the destruction of the product, and that leads to a lot of losses on the part of the company, you know. So I think it's information and the calculation part of it. So I think information is a major thing. Even the calculation is information, because someone signs an FOB contract and he doesn't know what it means, that what an FOB contract is. Or someone signs a cost and freight contract or a cost insurance and freight contract, and he thinks that his responsibilities have ended as soon as he delivered the goods to the vessel, not knowing that he's going to pay freight. So he begins to wonder, where is the freight going to come out from? Freight money is not part of what I have quoted for you. So the information gap is very, very wide, very, very wide.
Wow, that's I guess you probably saved some people some thousands of dollars just from those few points that you mentioned there. So that's really interesting. I think people get really excited. They see the numbers and like, wow, I need to get into exports, and a lot of mistakes are made along the way. So that leads me on to the question of the service that you're offering. I think sometimes when it comes to consulting, because the customer doesn't know what they don't know, they might not realize or appreciate spending the money on consulting. So what has been your experience with that? Have you found some people that they ask you, okay, how much does it cost? You tell them and they're like, well, I'll figure it out myself. Has that been in the experience as well?
That's a very, very consistent experience, especially, so then I've also understood in the last 6 months that I serve two markets, basically the local market and the international market. So for the people in the international market, they are accustomed to paying for services, right? So when you say this is what I'm going to charge, they either negotiate or the most times they negotiate. But in this part of the world, what you find out is most people are not willing to pay for services. So immediately you say, this is what I'm going to charge for this service. Then you begin to say, no, someone begins to say, no, it's not anything serious like that. I'm not asking very serious questions. I just need to put me through this and that. And I'm like, I'm a consultant. I sell billable hours. This is not pro bono and all of that. But so now I've begun to delineate the markets. So I was telling someone recently that even though I train, most times I don't open up trainings for individuals, except there was this one I did recently for the students, and that was like almost pro bono, right? Because if I train for an organization, the organization understands the value of the training. And so the organization is the one paying, and then participants attend for free, right? So I would rather tailor my services to the organization and let the organization engage me. That way I know that I'm getting a fair exchange for my time instead of then going to the individuals. Also, another thing I've realized is that most of these individuals are actually SMEs. And so it's not like some of them don't want to pay, some of them just can't afford what you are charging. So but there are organizations like the NEPC and some other organizations, even foreign organizations, who take up the responsibility of partnering with our own local organizations to trade people on trade and international trade and exports and all of that. So in tailoring our services to those organizations, we're able to leverage on that. And then what we then do locally is well, one or two people who understand the value of the services that we are offering were available to service them.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think did I go off at a point?
Yeah,
Hello?
yeah. I lost you just at the last 30 seconds. Like you said, you talked about, how you tailored your stuff to the organizations, and then you're going to make another point that I just lost you. This most recent point you were going to make.
Oh, okay. So I was saying that, but then there are some local companies who understand the value of the services we offer, and then we also tailor our services to those people. Even some individuals understand the value of those services, and they are willing to pay. So it works just well.
Wow, that's fantastic, and that says a lot of things, because a lot of the time in business you need to understand where you fit in the market, and know how to pivot. So, say for example, maybe you might have started off serving everyone, but then you realize maybe serving individuals is not a good idea. I should focus on organization. So these are not just export specific lessons, these are business lessons. And then you spoke about, you're not necessarily serving the market that the NEPC might be serving. You have, your own kind of market that you're serving. So it's really interesting, the stuff that you've been going through on your journey. And you mentioned there were three things that your company offers: was training, consulting, and trading. Can you speak about the trading? What is that? What do you mean there?
Oh, okay. So our company also trades. We do quite some cash flow, right? But we trade on the value chain. So what I have seen is that a lot of people in the export space don't understand the value chains, and a lot of people in the export space want to be in the forefront of the exports. So for cashew, for example, when we're trading cashew, we're trading as merchants, not as the exporter. So I'm trading with the exporter, right? Well, I'm on the value chain, right? So, but a lot of people don't understand that part. A lot of people want to be the ones to earn the foreign exchange themselves, right? But then there's an ecosystem, there's a value chain. And so I say to people that wherever you play in the value chain or the ecosystem is not really material, because you are still contributing at the end of it all to the export ecosystem, right? So for the trading, most times we do some commodities, cashew majorly, and then maybe a little cocoa, right? So those are the commodities that we do for trading currently.
Wow, that's fantastic. And that's well said, because like you mentioned about the LBS course, I did the same course. We've met before at LBS, and the professor or the facilitator speaks about the agribusiness value chain as a whole. People mostly think of agriculture, which is like the farming side of it, and then they think of exporting. So, but people don't really think about everything in between. And I think that, it's very important that people start understanding, there's so much going on. There's trading, there's processing, there's logistics, there's so much more. So you don't necessarily have to literally be the one exporting the goods out of the country. There's so much more that can be done. And that leads on to my question around the value chain. I think I've seen you on a webinar where you talked about some interesting bits and pieces, and you can give us just a top level of opportunities in the value chain. I remember one time I saw you in a webinar, you spoke about the jute bags and how, the prices fluctuate, so there's an opportunity there. So can you just mention just a couple of things along the value chain, aside from trading and maybe jute bags, that you think people should maybe look into outside of just purely exporting goods?
Okay, so the export of services is something that a lot of people have not looked at, apart from even the ecosystem itself, right? So there is the business process outsourcing that is just becoming quite popular in Nigeria, which has been over time dominated by India and the Philippines. And I was in a program and a lady was talking about it. I know that we have met in several seminars where she talked about export of services, right? So that's something that we have not really fully maximized in this part of the world, the export of services. But then if we're going to look at the value chain, I was saying to some university students last week that if you tell me what course you are studying, then I'll be able to tie it to exports. And so they started to try my knowledge of exports with the courses that they are studying. And so I said to the lawyer, for the lawyer, there's international law, there's business law, there's the law of contracts. So even though you're a lawyer, you don't have to be a charge and bill lawyer. You don't have to be a litigation lawyer. You could focus on international trade, right? And then someone said chemistry, like chemistry will make me lost and all. And I said product formulation. So someone wants to formulate a product for exports. The person can't just mix things together. The person needs someone who understands chemistry, food science and technology, all of that, throw all of that together before the person comes up with a product. The person has to know that the properties of this and that, by the time I mix them together, I am not going to be poisoning people. And then the microbiology said, so what about microbiology? And I said to the person, microbiology, when we are testing the products for residue and all of that, and testing the products for the microbial levels and all of those things, we are going to have to use a lab, and then the microbiologists are going to be the ones in the lab. And when we talk about insurance, we're talking about marine insurance, and we are talking about goods in transit, export credit insurance. And when we talk about finance, we're talking about export financing and all of that. And when we talk about packaging, right, there are some packaging that are needed for exports. There's even a move towards packaging that is environmentally friendly, right? I should have a product, but I don't necessarily have to be the one to import my packaging. Someone's business can just be packaging for products. That can be someone's own business. Another thing is contract processing. So in most developed countries, the owner of the product doesn't own a factory. He just uses a factory. They process however much that he needs for him. And I'm so happy that the last time I was in Abuja, some women had already started working on this model where you just take in your raw materials and they process it for you. It's your own brand, but you don't own a factory, you don't own the label, you don't, they make the label for you, they even suggest to you, they get all the vendors and all of that. The only thing you would need to get is your own NAFDAC number, and then contract processing is happening. And then we're also looking at packing houses. So if I wanted to pack fruits from Nigeria and I needed a cold packing house to pack the fruits, for example, what most organizations will do is then create their own packing houses. And how many packing houses can each organization possibly come up with? Why isn't there a zone that is a place where if I want to package fruits, there was this time we were really talking about avocado pear from Nigeria. And, it was funny to me because I know for a fact, I stand to be corrected, that currently there isn't a place where we'll package it if we were to export it, right? Someone was speaking to me about roses recently, that we could do roses from Nigeria. I was like, yeah, we can do the planting, but what about the logistics of it? What about the packaging of it, the storage of it before it moves? What about its movement in transit? So I have a reefer truck, or I have a reefer container. That could be my own, my business could be cold logistics, right? So the ecosystem is totally empty with so many business opportunities in it, and it's just waiting for people to plug in. What about artificial intelligence, right? So if I have a cold room and I have to monitor the temperature levels of that cold room, or a warehouse even, and I have to monitor, or I have to track my products in the containers, then artificial intelligence is already around me. And then the lowest hanging of them all, I'll say, is data. Data gathering and data, available data in public domain. I was saying to a friend that there was a particular time I wanted some data, and some guy from India had offered me and said, how many products do you want? I said 10 products. He said that would be $1,000. I was like, for what? But he had actually aggregated all of that data, and it was data that was important to me. So if someone goes ahead to aggregate that data, you begin to find out that people actually need, there's data, it's just not aggregated together in one place. So the ecosystem has so many opportunities in it, but what everybody is looking at is just the front end. Everybody is interested in carrying the container. Everybody wants to carry the container. Everybody wants to be the one to put the goods in the aircraft. But then what about the many other things that the existing exporters need in the ecosystem? And that's also putting a lot of pressure on their cash flow, right? Because if I need to build my own warehouse, build my own cold storage, import my own jute bags, import my own packaging materials, then I'm putting unnecessary pressure on my cash flow. But like the phone industry, the mobile phone industry, we have screen guards, we have chargers, we have earphones, we have the data companies, we have the apps. We have so many things that are just an offshoot of one product, the mobile phone, right? So it's same with exports, right? And the people who will take advantage of it early are the ones who win big.
Wow, well said. I didn't expect you to answer that question so well. You went into a lot of detail, and I hope it inspires a lot of people to see how they can fit into the value chain. Like you said, it's an ecosystem. It's not just one place, everyone just exporting goods. The exporters need a lot of services. Me myself, I try to use technologies, develop apps that can help in facilitating exports in Nigeria. So everyone has a role to play, and it can create a lot of jobs and create a lot of opportunities. So very, very well said there. I was going to ask you as well, you've mentioned a lot of the opportunities. But I also wanted to hear some of the key challenges for exports. What's limiting us from our full potential? I know that, yes, there's a lot of gaps in the value chain, but maybe let's look at it from more the public sector. Maybe let's look at it more from the ports. You know, what are some of the things that are recurring themes that you see that are limiting us, that if they were removed or they were liberated, exports would be a lot easier in Nigeria? I think I lost you there. Hello? Let's see.
Okay.
Okay, so I was going to ask about, you mentioned the opportunities in the export value chain, but I wanted to find out some of the challenges or some of the limitations that we're having, looking more so from maybe infrastructure or public sector. What are some of the things, the things that are quite big stumbling blocks from helping Nigeria to just explode on the international stage?
I think the very, very major one is logistics, right? The ports, uh, 3 ports in Nigeria are the ones that are functioning for our volume. It just won't work. The Lekki Deep Sea Port is coming up strong, and we are hoping that that works. But logistics is like a major challenge. The port situation is a major, major challenge. You know, when we eventually are ready, when you eventually get your goods, when you eventually start moving, then you look at the cost of logistics itself. There was a conference where the cost of logistics from Nigeria was analyzed, and it was really high. It was higher than other competing neighboring West African countries. So it just then means that as an origin, Nigeria, that might make us uncompetitive as an origin. So if I'm going to buy something, if I was going to import something from West Africa, and I look at Ghana, I look at Togo, I look at Benin, I look at Ivory Coast, and I look at their logistics from these countries, and I look at the logistics from Nigeria, it might be a disincentive for me to do business from Nigeria, right? And then our costing will also not be the same, because someone whose logistics cost is lower than mine, their pricing will be much better than mine. And remember that we are trading in an open market, so it's not like the market is closed and I can always quote any price based on my logistics. So I can't even transfer the cost to my buyer, because my buyer has other options. He can decide that I can get this product in Ghana, so why should I pay through my nose because I want to get it from Nigeria? And it's the same with air, it's the same with sea, it's the same with our land borders, So the cost of logistics is really, really, it's a major challenge for exporters. It is a major challenge. And that's the solution to logistics will be like a major game changer for Nigerian exports. It's like something that is just going to, when we talk about the ease of exporting, that logistics will be like a major contributor to the ease of exporting from Nigeria.
Wow, that's very well said. And just before I round things up, I just want to dig a little bit deeper. And if you don't have the answers to this question, that's fine. But I wanted to find out what specifically is making the cost high? Is it, is it the delays at the ports? Is it, maybe the customs collecting too much money from people? Like, do you know more specifically what the bottleneck is there?
Okay, so I think that there are multiple charges to start with. Different agencies trying to get different costs. Then the bottleneck is also a cause of the high cost, because if there's a bottleneck on the way, it means that I always use this analogy that if I was a truck and I know that to take me 2 weeks to get into the port, and I used to typically charge $500,000 for that trip, because I know that my one trip, before it was a 1 day trip, and all of a sudden it has become a 2 week trip. So I would then say I'm going to charge 1.5 million for the same trip, right? Even the 1.5 million doesn't really cover my costs, but the 1.5 million is 3 times what used to be paid. So imagine you put in 3 times, and even that 3 times doesn't work for the transporter, because the transporter wants to go and come back. He wants to go and come back. He wants to go and come back, right? So another thing is, because of the congestion at the port, some people are having to use the barge, and the badge is at an extra cost, right? So by the time you put all of these costs together, coupled with what we call legal illegal charges, that's what a friend of mine calls it, legal illegal charges, which are the payments along the way as you go to the ports and all of that, the different taxes that some agencies and some officials, those are just those other. By the time you put everything together, you find out that the cost of logistics is astronomical. It's something that you can't even imagine. It's something that has gone way past the reach of most exporters.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. And thanks for giving the detail there. So yeah, this is something that we need to challenge. And I think hopefully with the new ports, the Lekki deep sea ports, and I think there's another one that's coming out soon. So I
coming up
think these things
strong,
should help.
yes, the Badagry.
Badagry one, yes. And I think hopefully if it's there should be a policy and something to move these obstacles out the way, but hopefully as we progress, things will get better. But thank you so much for this conversation. I've learned a lot. I'm sure people that are listening would have learned a lot. So I guess the last thing I'll ask is, how can people reach you if they want to, use your services, if they want to get your books, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Okay, I think I'm quite active on LinkedIn. Tokunbo Adegoyin. Same thing on Instagram at Tokunbo Adegoyin. Our website is www.fortress20commodities.com. You can get our books, our products. Basically, online, you can reach me online. You can reach me through our websites. I think online, my email. From LinkedIn, I'm sure I have a number on LinkedIn. I have an email address on LinkedIn. You can always reach out to me if you need any of our services.
Fantastic. So yeah, thank you once again for joining me. I think we've covered most of it. If you need her services, please reach out to her. She's been doing this for a long time. She's got all the expertise, so I'm sure it'll be very, very much worth your money. Thank you, Ade Tokunbo, for your time. And yeah, hopefully, maybe we can do this again when Nigeria's made some adjustments and things are moving a lot better. So yeah, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.